Welcome to Beachside Tech Talk. My name is Ian Utility. We got a full house today. We got Ted. He came in from the Silicon Valley. Welcome to the studio, Teddy.
It is good to be in the studio.
That's what the studio feels about you. The studio feels good about you being here too.
The chair just give you a big hug right now.
So affectionate.
Do I get to let the cat out of the bag?
No. I don't know what cat you're talking about. Leave the tiger in the, but hold the tiger by the tail. Yeah. My son Malachi is with us. Hello, son. My brother Dan.
Bro.
I love you so much.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday to you. We got Nigel coming in from the East Coast. Hey, Nigel. How are you, my friend?
Fantastic.
Well, I'm always happy to hear that you're doing fantastic. That is important to me. We got Riza behind me. Hello, honey. She's waving. She's busy. She's doing all the administrative operational goodness to make this thing thrive. We got Kristen in the studio, who we're always so very thankful for. Kristen, Scott, Numa, and the team here at KOMY can't say enough about our gratitude for being given this opportunity to do local radio here in Santa Cruz County. Our show is called Beachside Tech Talk. We often focus on Web3, which you might know as blockchain, crypto, metaverse type stuff. And we also focus a lot on AI. Of course, there's a lot to be said about robotics and automation. Today, we're going to have a loose and open conversation. We've been talking mostly on themes, but today I just wanted to dive in and celebrate the fact that we're almost at 60 episodes, gentlemen and lady. We have done this now for a few months. It's been a wonderful springboard. It sometimes is interesting for me to navigate, focusing on the radio and serving all you wonderful people out there in Radio Land and making sure that everything we do is thoughtful and empathetic and sympathetic toward those that are listening, right? You can't necessarily see us, but we do live stream on Facebook and LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram. And oftentimes we give them the best we can, but we do focus primarily on this local radio because that's what we're here for. We're here to serve our local community. And this radio station has been here physically. It was built in 1947. MZ, Michael, has owned it and run it for, I believe, 38 years. And so just an incredible legacy of local, radio and people coming in and talking, doing news, of course, music. One of my favorite moments here ever was when we had the choir come in from Africa. I guess it was a global choir of orphans. It's the orphan choir, and they basically travel the world to raise money, and Numa set that up, and what an amazing experience that was. So there's been a lot of great experiences. So I think one of the things I want to start off for this first segment is just to celebrate some of the fun things that we've experienced together here in this environment. So son, you're 16 years old. You just transitioned from traditional high school at Monte Vista over to a non-traditional path at Oasis at the Cabrillo College campus. So you're doing dual enrollment, doing some Cabrillo College classes, and then finishing up your high school, necessities. And then you've been doing this with us since day one. And you and I and Riza started talking about what could be, and we roped in Dan and eventually Nigel and Ted, and the six of us said, well, what can we accomplish in this environment? So let me ask you, son, a lot of young people don't necessarily think about the radio. They might think about going live on TikTok. They might think about Instagram or some other gram of nature. So what's it been like for you to be able to jump on the radio? I know you've had some friends that have come to visit us and jump on with us.
It's been such an amazing experience. A lot of change has happened for me recently. I just came from doing a Cabrillo class, and this has been one of the most positive experiences in my life. It's amazing getting to have a local place, an actual place where you can bring people. I don't think there would be any way that my friends would have been like, oh yeah, I would love to hop on a Zoom meeting with you guys. That's not going to happen. But it's like, yeah, come down to the radio, the one that's right next to the ocean, the one that has a really cool, beautiful facility and all these amazing machines. And you have this, where we're sitting right now. This is quite cool. It's amazing getting to be in this kind of place. And I've really gained a lot from both the people and the place itself.
Nigel, you've made maybe as big of a sacrifice as any to participate in this, jumping on every day. You're on the East Coast, different time. You do it at the end of your afternoon. And you also flew out here and spent time with us for a couple weeks, living here and getting to really absorb what is Santa Cruz County, what is this beach city. And so tell me, what has the experience been like for you doing Beachside Tech Talk live together here at the radio station?
I think anytime you put together a group of people who get on and value spirited debate in a topic that you have some kind of foundational knowledge in some way, shape, or form, you tend to just have better ideas, better conversation. And you couple that with just being local. And I think this is the biggest takeaway. Not being a resident of California, Santa Cruz, and doing the show, I got to learn so much about the area. Visiting and being at the radio station, seeing the history and nostalgia. I saw a Geiger counter in there. It's pretty amazing. Like the little museum, the Apple computers when I first learned, technology
cool.
on. Yeah, I mean, there's something about that, well before the internet, this was the way people would communicate. And if the internet goes down, this is going to be the way they communicate too. Because one of the things we discovered was that AM radio is going to be one of the communication tools that we're going to need.
Probably.
Yeah. So, but the local roots, the connective tissue, is what resonated the most. It made me learn more about what's going on. Whether it's, from our particular topics that, covered business or apprenticeship or, news and media or community, or just, what we've been doing, Dana, I've been doing on Fridays, which we talk about, what's happening for the weekend. You start to understand what impacts the community, what things impact it politically, socially, philanthropically. So you get a sense. I became a digital, citizen from across the way. So it was wonderful.
It's been really valuable to have your perspective too, though, because if we just have a few local guys, which is the way that most local shows go, it's really unique when you have someone who is on an outside perspective. I feel like looking at it from a glance, it's like, no, dude, he's not local. But then it's like, now you have someone from an outside perspective who in a way gives information that you would never be able to understand or hear otherwise.
Well, one thing
Quite
that
unique.
Nigel has mentioned over and over again is getting 6 of us together, including Riza, 7 if you include Kristen and what she does for us. It is no small task. It's hard to do it once. It could be considered almost an impossibility to pull this off for several months in a row, especially with the entrepreneurial effort that is put forth, right? We didn't start this because we're funded. We don't have sponsors and partners and advertisers lined up. We've been building something that would be worthy of that. And so all of us have made this incredible sacrifice to do this together. And I think that there's something very, very powerful about that. I've been traveling around the world lately, and one of the big things I've been talking about on global tech stages is that you will find your purpose when you find your people, that your destiny, your calling is sometimes hidden inside of your community. And we are grateful for everyone out there in Radio Land that feel connected to one of us or all of us. And maybe you feel like you've found people that you resonate with. Maybe something that we've shared or just the way that we approach things, you feel like, that lights my heart up, and that we hope that you feel a extended part of this community that we are. And of course, we were already the 6 of us in this room right here. We were already a community before we started this show. We already worked together with our company Attention Live, with our education arm Web3 AI. We already have traveled the world together and done so much together. But to be able to share that and to be able to bring that to Radio Land, as I like to say, is I think is a joy. Dan, you and I have talked about our desire to be involved with radio. Neither of us had anticipated this open door opening up for us here at KOMY 1340 AM, home of Schoolhouse Radio. And then it opened up for us. We sat down with Scott and we dreamt a little bit about what could be. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we jump on the radio for their, drive time hour, and then they give us an hour on weekdays, and they expand it to 2 hours on weekdays. And what's the journey been like for you? Because I feel like part of this has been a fulfillment of a dream of what could be, right? The ability to sit down and not just do another podcast, not just do another live stream on the internet, but actually to have access to the airwaves and be able to do this local community thing that we are doing. So what's the journey been like for you?
Seems like there's purpose in it. So it's very gratifying to be able to share an experience of life, or just to have commonality with people in a room, and then also pushing that out onto airwaves. You don't really know who's listening, but you do feel that there's a connection out there. You want to be able to present yourself, actually feel like you have a connection through the earphones. And the biggest takeaway that I feel that I've got from it is that there is community that's being built here. It's funny you mentioned it's very difficult to get 6 people into a room unless everybody is
Getting paid for their time and
right. Everything's hunky dory. Yeah, right. It's a push, and it's a thing. So I think that a big takeaway from that is also like-minded people can create their own community, and not only that, focus on a specific task, and then show the consistency of it. Because I've been here every day, you've been here every day. There's you're really not missing, and putting your heart into something is very fulfilling and meaningful. Yeah. Not only that, being connected with multiple people every day, you learn more about them. Even doesn't matter how much time you spend with them, you still having that connective tissue where you're actually having conversation every day for a couple of hours. It's not just a casual conversation where it's improvised. There's a direction for us here, but there's also, every time that I've left the building, I feel better than I did when I came out. And there's a connectivity there, and I see that extrapolating out into media, whether you're streaming or whether you're having a platform to enable people to talk about good things and coming together, and the oneness, instead of having the separation feeling of, or anxiety of feeling you're alone, or it's hard to do things without confirmation. And that's the biggest takeaway I get from community, is that you get confirmation from other like-minded people that everything is okay regardless of what the day is giving you, and that you have a backed source. You have things that people and places that you can go to lean into and feel better. Yeah. Ultimately, for me, it's about seeing a better seeing inside people's faces the better of humanity. Yeah. And I want to make it sound like that's kind of farce or something, but that's it, because I feel the connection that's been brought through here.
Ted, what are your thoughts? You've made the trek here several dozen times. Obviously, it's easy for you to jump on and join us remotely because of the awesome structure that Scott, Numa, Kristen, and ultimately MZ and his team have put together over the years. But you still make the trek. You make the trek to come out and spend time with us in the studio. Tell us a bit about your experience being here. What keeps drawing you to come spend time with us, except for besides just me pushing on you? Come on, Ted. I need a Haas hug.
No, the highlight has been connecting with the team here, and Kirsten and Numa and Scott, and getting to know them. That was one of my highlights coming out here. And I've driven by this place over the years, over and over, and it's like, Santa Cruz is such an interesting place. And, it's not like the beach communities in Southern California. It's definitely not like the hippie communities, although there's definitely a hippie vibe here. It's this unique, it's like it's a corner of Silicon Valley, and to see this uber creativity here with a little bit of a weird Santa Cruz twist. And that vibe, and then just the love for the community and the passion to really, revive this thing that's legacy. And that's really cool because, we're in the Web3, online streaming, AI space, but, we don't want to see that displace the old. We want to see it revitalize. And it's interesting how things come full circle, and old technologies get brushed off. And now, wow, these are very, very important. And, you know, community is at the center. But the whole point that if there's a disaster and, you know, Santa
this
Cruz
is the
has
fastest
had,
way to update people. AM
Yes.
radio is the fastest way to update people if there's a disaster, if there's an earthquake, if there's a flood, if there's some sort of major, you know,
I don't
thing.
think they'll ever get rid of these old ham airwaves,
No,
bro. I mean,
no.
it just doesn't make sense. Even if it
Right.
stayed static all day long and there was no one on it, it still would be a
It'd
good
still be
idea
there.
to keep it open and to keep it, you know, available.
and just hanging out in this place,
Right.
like we
It's
got to have
such
a
a cool
party
spot.
here, you
It's
know,
such
and
a
then they
cool
have the
spot.
outdoor patio and you're right on the
Oh,
water.
yeah, we're on. That's why it's the Beachside Tech Talk.
Yeah,
Right
and
on
then
the
you have
on the
you have
sand,
these
on the
towers
lagoon.
that are
I
right
know.
over the water.
It's so
They're
cool.
reflecting off the ocean. So the guys, hey, heads up, you know, shout out to the people in Texas who are catching our signal.
And the people in Guam that are hearing
Guam,
us. This thing
because
is
it
Hawaii.
reflects off of the,
It's New York from time to time.
yeah.
So for all the people outside of the Bay Area that somehow hear us on 1340 AM, we know you're there.
Those even at the International Space Station.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, hello to all you astronauts out there.
But ultimately, we understand we're serving Santa Cruz County, Monterey Bay County, and of course beyond Silicon Valley and whatnot. You know, what do you guys think makes this community so unique? You know, there's early on, there was a lot of bumper stickers, keep Santa Cruz weird, and then Austin and Portland stole it. Now all of a sudden, Austin and Portland, keep Portland weird, keep Austin weird. At least my impression is that it was kind of, you know, that was early on here. So what do you guys think about this local community? What do you think about what this place is
Weird
and is
is
becoming?
awesome.
Weird is awesome.
Weird is unique. If you're not unique, then what is it? I mean, I was just having the thought about, like, think about how many different lives and different people have heard this or are listening to it now. You probably have a construction worker, whether they're working or whether they're on a break. That's one type of person. Maybe you have a mom who is helping her kids and she's just listening to a bunch of guys talking about something. Whatever it is, there's so many different kinds of people listening, and I find that so impactful and really quite surprising when I really let my thought process go down that loophole.
You know, it's definitely a modern community, and you know, in some ways you're early adopters of technology and things like that, but there's also this old school sense. I think part of it has to do, you know, like we've had a series of disasters here.
Mm-hmm.
And the community comes together and helps one another in real times of need. You know, the recent, well, not that recent, but the fires that happened. And
Hey, the fires were a huge impact, just like the earthquake in '89. There's been definitely moments of great crisis. And you know, it's interesting, you know, 9/11, it was on the East Coast, obviously much closer to home for Nigel. But 9/11 brought this community together because we're all Americans. It caused people to really pause for a moment. You know, hey, what if that just happened to San Francisco? You know, okay, it happened in New York, but what if it did happen, you know, in Monterey? And so people took pause around the world. And oftentimes when crisis comes, communities come together in a new and profound way that wasn't in place beforehand. Nigel, you got to come here for a couple weeks and you got to really kind of live with us for a bit. You also stayed here for over a week before we all went to Manila last year. So you've made a couple trips recently. You've got to live at the Capitola Village. You got to stay at the Fairfield, got to stay at our place in the forest in Aptos, and of course be part of our family. And you and I have collaborated together for many years. And it's been really wonderful to see the way that you and Dan collaborate. What's your take on the community that is Santa Cruz County? What's your take on what makes this place unique, and why do you think, you know, we're known as a weird place and proud of it?
I think weird is a strong word, but label it however you want. I've always found that you West Coasters are more compassionate. You know, and I say that in the most affectionate way possible. And I noticed it when I came to, you know, San Francisco and contrasted how homeless people were treated versus New York. Vastly different. You know, so then also there's the environmental piece. that offers a huge contrast. I think being near Wall Street and the finance district in New York, everything is economic extract. And while there's Silicon Valley there and there's lots of money, I feel like there's a better harmony of money and philanthropic needs and things. And maybe it might be a different perspective if I live there, but I'm just contrasting it to living in the East Coast. It's very different. It's a different feeling. It's a different vibe. And as far as like community, I think the thing it seems like we're discounting now is us being in this room, in this space is a culmination of a lot of work, a lot of effort. It's not something that happens overnight. And I feel like sometimes what we see online tends to conflate.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, it conflates what it really is. You friend someone, it's not going to be this tomorrow. You leave a comment for someone, it's not going to be this tomorrow. You join a Zoom today, it's not going to be this tomorrow. This is over a period of time of putting in work, of putting in effort, of having a desire to do something that's constructive. And what I'm most proud of that all of us have participated in is the fact that we are a diverse group, age, gender, like name it, probably more than I've seen in most places, that get to talk about a single topic or multiple topics and get perspective, to ask the difficult questions, which leads to a lot of laughter, which is good. But there's no sparing of the spirited debate. We have our opinions and it's cool. And I feel like that demonstration, that example is probably the greatest thing that I'm proud of, because I don't know that there's enough of that in the world. I feel like we've gotten, or it feels like it's trending in a way where we can't have a conversation with difference of an opinion without it turning into, I'm gonna use the word from yesterday, a revolution. And it doesn't need to, so I feel like there's a lot to be said here for that. And I encourage, more participation in these type of conversations where you get to hear people's opinions. Like when Malachi said, I'm the one that's 16, I'm the one in school, which I agree. He's the expert in that space. But does it, does the average 16-year-old get acknowledged for their expertise? Probably not. But we could do better.
It's an interesting point.
We only have a minute left, and I just got a text message that Charlie Kirk has been shot at a university in Utah. What the person said to me is, so much blood, it would take a miracle for him to live. And, yesterday we talked about revolution versus reformation. And one of the things that we said is unique about a revolution is oftentimes it's bloody. And clearly we don't want a bloody revolution in our country. But when someone like Charlie Kirk, who's probably one of the 100 most well-known people in America on the conservative right side, gets shot just exercising his freedom of speech. He goes to universities where he's invited. So he was invited and then he gets shot. That's not a good sign. And so, as we think about community, I don't want to linger on this. So I just brought this up as we're getting ready to head to commercial break. As we think about community, let's be thoughtful to try to find ways in our community that we can learn to exercise freedom of speech and disagree in a peaceful way. Because the last thing we want are more situations like we just have seen or heard about with Charlie Kirk. We'll be back again in 4 minutes after this commercial break. All right, internet. So I just found out the Charlie Kirk thing. I don't really want to talk about that anymore, but it did tie to our conversation yesterday.
Are you still on?
Just here, yeah.
Sorry. It looks really bad.
With Charlie.
I am.
Okay.
Upset.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Did you know that happened, or did you?
My friend just texted me. I've been watching the video.
Yeah, Brandon just texted me. Yeah.
Anyways.
I know.
Okay. I'll take that.
Well, internet. One thing that I probably won't talk about on the air is that this is our last day inside the studio, which is why we're spending time talking about, like just how much we've enjoyed being here. We're going to transition. We're still going to keep Beachside Tech Talk live. We still might stick with 12 to 2 Pacific time. We might move the time. We'll talk about that internally, but we'll still be on tomorrow, same time, same gratitude time, same gratitude hour.
We are ending it all.
And but everything goes through ebbs and flows, and so this station's going through an ebb and flow, and they're not going to have the live element in studio starting tomorrow. And so I don't think I'll mention that on the airwave. It's not really my place to tell the station that. That's for MZ, Scott, Numa, Kristen to decide how they want to communicate that. But I will say that we've really enjoyed it here, and we're looking forward to what's going to happen in the future. For all those that do tune in through any of the social media accounts where we broadcast, it's actually quite challenging for me to serve the radio and also serve an internet audience. I have to make sure that when we're in here on the radio, I have to give the radio my primary focus and attention. This has to be kind of first because we were invited here, which means the internet kind of just gets to watch the radio experience, and we don't get to like really focus on you as an audience the way that we would want to, which is why I don't promote it, market it, advertise it. So transitioning out of the space, being able to still do the same or similar show online, I think will be a good opportunity for me to actually get into a rhythm of serving you, an internet audience, all of our friends out there on internet land, and would justify us being able to start the process of promotion to build up a big audience. And then now our content's really gotten great. I feel great about what we're doing, our conversations we're fostering, what we're co-creating together. And so there's also the reality of like being able to set some things in motion so this is sustainable, so that all of the co-hosts here can benefit from their time investment and energy investment into this. And so that'll be the big focus. So you'll notice over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll really be transitioning into trying to bring in some folks that will partner with us. I already have a number of people, and now I know that the primary audience is the internet. So more local organizations that have a global potential desire to reach out. So I'm gonna transition back to the radio now. It always takes me a moment because I have to switch the audio from my computer back over to the airwaves.
Crazy things that can happen.
Welcome back to Beachside Tech Talk. We are live here at KOMY 1340 AM, the home of Schoolhouse Radio. I had just mentioned Charlie Kirk was shot. Kristen and myself both got a message from someone else that was live on the radio here for quite some time, Brandon Johnson. And what he said to me was, please pray for Charlie. He was shot at the University of Utah, lots of blood. Only a God of miracles can save him. Yesterday we talked about revolution versus reformation, being that revolutions are quick, irreversible, often bloody. Reformations are slow, can be modified and reversed, and often can be peaceful. And, I think a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum are desiring for change. Unfortunately, we don't all seem to want the same change. And I think oftentimes people are focused on what divides them rather than what unites them. And so instead of recognizing that 99% of Democrats and Republicans' life is aligned, both sides of the aisle want to be safe. Both sides of the aisle want to be prosperous. Both sides of the aisle want to figure out how to protect the environment, how to be compassionate but deal with the homeless problem, how to be compassionate but deal with the crime problem. Both sides of the aisle want to be loved and want to love. Both sides of the aisle want to have some level of prosperity and wealth and freedom. Both sides of the aisle want freedom of speech. unfortunately, for some reason, we lose it when people don't agree with all of our little specific things that we care about. And so, it's been said that freedom of speech only matters when you want people you don't agree with to be able to say whatever they want. So the reality is, anybody that is a progressive that wants to have progressive things done, let's just pick, Charlie often talks about things around the LGBTQ environment. So if anybody's an LGBTQ advocate, freedom of speech only matters to them if they want Charlie Kirk to be able to speak. And freedom of speech only matters to Charlie Kirk and his peers if he wants the folks that he doesn't agree with to be able to speak. And the point is for us to be able to have dialogue about the 1% of our life as a human in America that is in contrast to the other person or other group's 1%. There's nothing easy to say about something violent thing that just happened. I don't really know the details, but from what I understand, it really looks bad. And obviously, anyone that is, feels aligned with Charlie or feels aligned with his methodology, his belief, is feeling a lot of pain, probably a lot of anger. And I think this is a moment to pause and to just think about, how do we respond when horrible things happen and maybe the most just thing is violence back? It was said to Jesus, if somebody, pokes out your eye, shouldn't you be able to take their eye? If somebody cuts off your arm, shouldn't you be able to take their arm? And he said, if somebody slaps you, give them the other cheek. If somebody demands you walk a mile, walk a second mile. That only matters when it hurts. Jesus said that if you do good for somebody that can do good back to you, who cares? Even the unrighteous will do good to those that can return the favor. If you loan money to somebody that's going to repay you, it doesn't matter. Unrighteous banks do that. It's only when you give to somebody without anything in return that it makes a difference. A lot of people have questioned, do religions have anything different from one another? All religions have martyrs. All religions have a focus on love. All religions have a focus on community. What makes the way of Jesus any different? And one of my observations is to love your enemies. Charlie Kirk professes to be a follower of Jesus. I believe that the majority of his peers and community would align with that at some level. And so I think this is an opportunity, not that I have the attention of the world, but I have the attention of the people in this room. I think it's an opportunity to ask ourselves, are we willing to do the hardest thing that, Jesus of Nazareth invited us to do, which is to love those that we perceive as enemies? You see this with Nelson Mandela. He could have retaliated once he was back in power, but he chose the way of Christ, to love his enemies and to forgive those that had persecuted him. You see this across the board. You even see this with Gandhi, who wasn't a Christian. Gandhi, I don't know if he actually said it. I didn't hear him, but supposedly he said, I love Jesus, but I don't like his followers. And, this is a real thing for us to ask ourselves. If you claim, as Charlie Kirk does so boldly, to follow Jesus, if that's your claim, do you have a willingness to try and love those that you perceive as your enemy, or try to love those that perceive you as their enemy? Because it's moments like this where it's very hard to balance justice and mercy. It's hard to balance what's right, and we have the right to retaliate, and what is enlightened and elevated, the willingness to try to make peace. Because if every bad thing that happens to one group is retaliated, then it's just nothing. But if this bloody thing that's just happened is retaliated with more blood, and then it just goes back and forth, everybody starts to accelerate toward violence. Mm-hmm. And at some point, some people have to stand up and not just talk about forgiveness and love and, overlooking something so horrible, but have to actually do something about it. It reminds me in Santa Cruz, there was a big thing maybe 25 years ago. Luis Palau came here at the boardwalk. I think it's like 100,000 people that came, and it was a big Christian concert and a multi-day concert, and it was quite fun. And but two kids were driving to the concert and got hit by a drunk driver and were killed. And the family chose not to press any charges and asked the court to not hold the drunk driver accountable. And their purpose was, even though we've lost our children, even though justice says this person should rot in a prison cell, some people might even say this person should be given the death penalty. We don't want that. They were headed to a Christian concert. We believe in the rhythms that Jesus came to introduce to humanity, which is the rhythms of forgiveness, loving an enemy, overlooking an offense, and trying to find restoration. So it's a pretty long way to open our talk. I wasn't really planning on saying any of that, but I think moments like this invite us to think about these challenging topics. Ted, you have been a minister and a follower of Jesus for most of your life. You have dealt with some of the most bloody environments, Argentina and all around the world. You've seen lots of unjust bloodshed with wonderful, righteous people that you love. You've had your friends be murdered by those that were in the opposition, and you've seen bloody, justified lashing out in response. And you've also seen the extension of mercy and forgiveness in response. Would you like to jump in and share your thoughts on this topic?
Well, the sacred scriptures say mercy triumphs over judgment. And a lot of times we think of just mercy and forgiveness, we think of it as a very passive response. And I think that's the wrong way of seeing it. Like you mentioned that tragic story about the drunk driver. A very close friend of mine, David Balch, runs a mission here in Salinas. He's a lawyer, but also an alcoholic. And, that's part of his story of overcoming that, through AA. And he's been clean and sober for many, many years. Amazing guy. He and his wife lost their son to a drunk driver. And he just shares about how extremely just difficult that was, just so hard. And they chose at the trial to forgive. And they spoke out and they reached out. And it was just so beautiful. And hearing him tell the story, from his perspective, it's, but by the grace of God, here am I. But also to see how that, it's very, very difficult to overcome a thing like that. In fact, statistics show that most couples don't survive that. They can't survive that trauma. And it's very tragic if you have other children, and they divorce. That's just statistically, to see how they've overcome that. And it was not easy at all. But by extending that grace and that mercy, that always just deeply touched me. But then one of my, I had an experience in San Quentin where a friend of mine, Samoan young man, he's in his 30s now, really, really neat guy. And he's another one of these guys that is super fit, very athletic, tattooed all over. And if you look at him from the back, like the guy's super frightening. But from the moment I knew him, you look at his face and there's something different. There's so much peace and calm. When he shared his story, he was incarcerated because when he was 18, 19, he got in an argument, an altercation. He was very, tough kid running in gangs in the Samoan community. And he killed another young man in the Samoan community. And then he's going through the trial. And the family of his victim are there the whole time, not saying anything. And he's just in that mindset of it's me against the world, tough guy. It's been hard. My whole life has been hard. Now I'm going to prison. Prison's a tough place, and I'm just going to get hard and tough. And, that's it. That just toxic, but survival mentality. And that's where he's at, And then it comes time to, the trial's over. And finally, the mother addresses the judge on behalf of the whole family. And first of all, she speaks to him and she says, we came here from Samoa so our son would have a better life and have an opportunity and get ahead. And that's not going to happen. That dream's dead. You took it from us. But we're not bitter. We choose to forgive you because Jesus tells us to forgive. And he said that, my friend sitting there, said that hit him like a ton of bricks. It's the last thing he was expecting. And then she goes on to say, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go. I want you to take advantage of the programs and the time. I want you to turn your life around. And eventually when you get out, I want you to come back. I want you to be part, serve your parents, be part of this community. He said she basically prophesied over me all of her dreams for her son. He said then she turns to the judge and begs the judge for mercy. Says, show mercy on this young man. And he says, here I am. I did it. I took her son from her. And she's begging for mercy. He says that he said it so raw. These guys aren't from a church background. They don't know the proper way to, in quotes, give your testimony. He says, I met God. And you can see it's like God walked into that courtroom and he saw something that he had no explanation for. And he says, there's no explanation for what this woman is doing except God, something divine. Jesus Christ rose from the dead. He says, I took her words and I made that commitment and I haven't turned back since. I'm not perfect, but that's what I'm living for. He's been locked up. He'll for a long time. He's in his 30s now, so it's over, probably close to 20 years now, and I don't know when he's up for parole. But man, just to see two sides, to see my friend the Balches, who I'm very close with, and to see how their marriage has thrived, how he still carries that pain of the lost son, but man, it's been turned into such proactivity. This guy is being used so powerfully, running this mission and living his best life. And he and his wife are thriving, and he's a great father to his other children. And to see how forgiveness and grace transformed their lives and gave them power. And then to see it on the other side of how this act of forgiveness transformed this guy from brokenness, from toxic, to this incredible, proactive, positive, in the scriptures it talks about oaks of righteousness. He's an oak of righteousness. We see it, we see his effect. Even while he's incarcerated, you see the incredibly positive effect he has on the other guys, on the team, the other teammates, and him transforming his life. And he's gonna, when he gets back, when he gets released, he's gonna be such a positive asset.
Nigel, you want to jump in and share any thoughts on this topic? I imagine that Dan and Malachi also have things on their mind as well.
That's quite a story. I think it's important for all of us to get met where we are. So to have the grace to be able to use that moment to create something that pays forward, I think is the greatest gift anyone could ever have on both sides.
Dan, any thoughts on this topic?
Well, it's it's kind of personal. Not just for me. God's got to be the focus. So he's going to get you through everything. And the guy forgiving, or it was a woman, right, Ted?
The mother.
The mother was forgiving. I can't even speak an opinion on that, because that's something that we're unfortunately kind of casually sitting here talking about. But I can't understand what she's experiencing, and what my thought would be had that happened with me or anyone in my family. The forgiveness definitely is going to come from God, if that's what she's feeling, and maybe that's from her point of view, Ted. Maybe that's her saving grace. Maybe the forgiveness, it's the most important part of that event that happened. She knows her son's in a good place with God, and that event has occurred, but she's going to be living with feelings for the rest of her life. And maybe she feels that being closer to God and feeling that type of forgiveness is actually going to be the release that's going to let her have peace. So I can understand that. But yeah, I think that we are all so accountable for our actions, that we kind of just live and walk through the day. I don't know how much percent of the time that you're actually paying attention to what you're doing, and are you doing it with the best of intentions, or are we just living in a moment? So I think the conscientious idea of love and support is what I'm taking away from that. It's very spiritual to me. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Malachi, any thoughts before we go to our commercial break?
Well, I think that kind of rocked me listening to that story, Ted, because looking at it now, you have this unique perspective where looking at, like, for example, what happened to Charlie Kirk just now, not a great thing. But when you look at a story like that, where the woman, she gave forgiveness, and I mean, look at the parallel between plenty of other times that people die in awful situations, and then both parties just get worse and worse and worse, and they just slowly go down this awful hole. And now, looking at it in the future, he's become like a light to everyone around him. That whole family has taken something that everybody would say, that's awful, that sucks, I'm so sorry for you. Instead, now it's, look at the good that we've brought from this. And I think it just reminds me of how being human is so unique, because every situation that sucks, the worse it sucks means the more it can be better.
Well, Charlie Kirk is well known globally and nationally because of technology. He was just on Bill Maher's podcast. He was on Gavin Newsom's podcast, people that he doesn't see eye to eye with. He built his entire authority and influence because of social media. And I do think that people are going to have a challenging time grappling with this because of technology. Because those that are opposed to Charlie are probably on social media celebrating. That's only going to inflame things. Those that are on social media that follow him are probably going to be mourning and talking about retribution. That's going to be challenging. And so again, this is another moment where, bringing it back to our show, Beachside Tech Talk, technology can be wonderful. It can give us influence. Technology can be challenging. It can expose us to things that inflame the way that we feel. And sometimes they pull the worst out in us. Sometimes I will talk about being noble and savage, being humble and confident. And how do you approach a moment like this in a noble, savage way? We'll be back again in about 10 minutes after this commercial break. And until then, may you be at peace. All right, Internet, I'm going to give all of us a break for a moment. Let us take a pause after a unusually challenging conversation that was unexpected. And I'm going to play a talk that I gave last year in the Philippines that I call Noble Savage. Just talking about the challenge of these two parts of our personality and how to try to live within both. How do we seek justice, but also seek mercy at the same time? Be back again in about 10 minutes.
You see, I believe that nobility
is likely the most important characteristic of any human being, whether that human is an athlete or a business person, whether they're a host or a KOL, no matter what role you're in government, in nonprofit sector. See, nobility is the most important characteristic of anyone's life. Being a valiant person, being a kind person, being loving, being faithful, being long-suffering, having grace toward others, being forgiving yourself. The noble characteristics are of the most important characteristics a human can ever have. And you cannot be too noble. You and I will never arrive at perfect nobility. We must pursue and chase down nobility as though we are a hunter going after something that will feed our family. There's nothing more important than nobility. However, if you're only nice, kind, loving, noble, gentle, humble, meek, if you're only thoughtful and put others first and selfless, if that's all that your life is, the likelihood of you actually getting things done and accomplishing great things and building a legacy and having your children's children talk about the great exploits of your life is very low. You see, it requires a certain level of savagery to be an extraordinary human. Now, what is savagery? Savagery is when you become an unstoppable force. It is when your ambition and your drive, your tenacity, your confidence, your commitment is unstoppable. Nobody, no organization, no government, no nonprofit, no business, no father, no mother, no son, no daughter, no amount of money will stop you from accomplishing the goal that you set out before you. That, my friends, is savagery. Obviously, if you are only savage and you are not noble, you will blow out your community, you will ruin your relationships, you will likely end up drug addicted, in jail, suicidal, divorced. That, in and of itself, leads to a very, very difficult life. Just like nobility, in and of itself, leads to a very, very soft and maybe ineffective life. And the reason I took time to make up that dream, to tell you a funny story, to start our time by getting your attention, is to tell you I'm here to push you. You see, in my dream that I made up, I didn't stay in the pool and let the sharks eat me. I fought the shark. I grabbed the snake by the neck. I bit the sea lion. I made it through the pool. And when I was at the edge of the pool and the man comes up to me and says, "You want my money? You want my business? You want my daughter?" I wasn't interested in those things. I nobly responded with, "I don't want what you have to offer. That's not why I'm here. I want to know who pushed me." Now, if you listen to me for the last 5 minutes of my talk right now, I'm going to invite you to a new life where in the future, you might tell your grandkids, there was this guy one time on October 11th, 2024, who rode around on this electric dragon. And he pushed me. He pushed me to think about being more of a noble man, more of a noble woman. He pushed me and he challenged me and he told me I had permission to be savage. I've been all over the world. I'm friends with lots of world leaders across the sectors of government and business and entertainment. I have the joy of speaking life into people. You see, part of my identity is that I am an encourager.
I literally take my courage and I put it in somebody's soul. I am giving you, you noble man, I am giving you, you savage woman, permission to go further. Be more noble. Be more savage. Be unstoppable. Find that beautiful balance of humble confidence. I'm now going to transition my talk into what type of futurist are you with my last 3 minutes. So if you become this noble, savage human, you become this righteous, unstoppable force, then what do you do? What do you do when you're unstoppable? I would propose to you that what you do is you start to manifest the future that you want. You see, for many years, decades, centuries, and millennia, futurists, spiritual people call them prophets, those people that talk about what's going to happen one day, they were historians. They looked at what had happened the last 10, 100,000 years. They said, based on history, I kind of get the sense that this is where humanity is going. What we've come to understand about the ability to manifest is that most of us are not historians. Most of us are not looking at data and making predictions based on what has been. Rather, the type of futurist that we are is we're the visionary kind, the manifesting kind, the kind of futurist that says what could be as though it will be, with faith that it could be, and action to make it become the thing you imagine. In the sacred scriptures, shared by the Christian, Catholic, Jewish, and Islamic faiths, talks about how this unseen, mystical creator of all things created. It says he spoke. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. For those 2 billion humans in the world that look to Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, as their spiritual leader, how did Jesus do miracles? How did Jesus raise the dead? Lazarus, come out! So what did Jesus do? He wasn't a historian. He didn't tell Lazarus that he would come out of the grave based on historical data. He manifested a man raising from the dead. He told a dead man to rise. How did Jesus turn water into wine? He said, "Tell everyone to bring me water." He told somebody to do something with the faith that he would manifest a transformation of water to wine. And then he prayed, and it was done. And finally, how are you? How am I going to create the life that we want to live? If we are community leaders, how are we going to balance nobility and savagery? And how are we going to find ourselves comfortable in the position of being a visionary that manifests what could be, what should be, and then follows through to ensure that it will be? So again, I'm here to push you. I'm here to make you uncomfortable. I want you to feel like you can be more noble, you can be more savage, and you can create the life, the career, the finances, the family that you know is possible.
Yeah, but it would fall. We just like die at some point.
All right, everybody. We're going to jump back on the radio. I'm going to switch the audio back over. Here we go, party people. Welcome back to Beachside Tech Talk. My name is Ian Utilli. I am here with a full studio. We got Malachi, Dan, myself, Kristen, and Riza. We got Nigel coming in. Ted was with us, but Ted had an appointment he had to run to. So we miss you, Mr. Teddy Haas. Nigel, welcome back. How's the future over there? It's 4 p.m. on the East Coast. We haven't even asked you how's the weather. What's happening over there in Florida land?
How's the
right
weather,
now?
Nigel?
Weather's good. Walks are happening.
Oh, there you go. Walks happening is very
Happening or
important.
walks?
Any
Walking
exercise is
around.
good exercise.
That's
Had a
true.
long one today.
Did you?
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple miles.
I hit the gym like it was my last time I could ever exercise this morning. I sweat for an hour and a half after I was done. I just, I got my heart rate up to 169. That was serious business.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
160.
I went for it. I mean, I had to sit down and suck wind a couple of times. I was in the mood.
Suck wind.
Yeah, I don't know if I've done that high. I know I've gotten into like 160, but I don't think I did
Yeah,
the 160.
I mean,
That's
I
pretty,
really,
you're huffing and puffing.
I pushed. I was about that business.
What's
So
the best way to push that hard if you are kind of injured?
well, you don't do anything with the injury. So if your shoulder's injured, you don't work on the shoulder. That's for sure. You got to do other things. But I was jumping around and just going for it. You know, it was fun. You know, I had mentioned Noble Savage before we got off the air, and I want to touch on that. You know, you could say lots of things about nobility or savagery. You could obviously use different words. Humble beast, confident. You know. Meekness or however you want to put it. But I want to ask you, Nigel, I'm going to kick it over to you first. What do you think about being noble and savage, embodying both of those things? And what do you think about the way technology enhances either or both of these things in our life? How does technology make our nobility or our savagery suppressed or maybe more extreme? What's your thought on this topic?
I don't know so much of it's suppressed, but extreme. I could see that. I think take AI for instance. I feel it's like drugs or alcohol. It amplifies whatever's there, in almost universally. So for me, I try to find ways to see God in others. And myself.
Mm-hmm.
It helps me to behave better. And I think it's a solid way to kind of approach things. And see value in, like what we were saying about spirited debate. I think discourse is how we get to solutions. We get to even discover what's there. I mean, think about so to keep it in the frame of technology. If we start to talk to AI, we discover things that we might not have ordinarily came across or came up. And I think this is helpful. We just don't always give that opportunity to other humans to participate in that conversation, to challenge our beliefs. Things I believe this are only enhanced by people challenging it. It's not the most fun thing, but I think it's enhanced by people challenging. And I think anyone who believes in God can see that. Because what happens is, if you're a believer, no one's going to come to you and say something even outlandish that's necessarily going to move the needle in any, material way, typically. Not something on average. So you have a chance to explore it a little bit, challenge your own beliefs, and what is faith if it's not tested?
What is faith if it's not tested?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great line. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about nobility, savagery? How does technology enhance or suppress that in ourselves and people around us?
Well, I think that being noble is something that turns out to bring more positivity than expected. I'm going to just leave it on that.
Sounds like you're saying soft or aggressive.
Sure.
Hard or soft.
Right.
Don't you have to be both?
You do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
that's why you always say noble, savage.
It's kind of in my mind, it's kind of like act accordingly. Whatever situation you're in, you should be able to, if you can think about it, you're probably going to respond to it the best way that you can. If you can't think about it, you'll probably lean into maybe a chaotic answer or something that maybe you wish you didn't say or do. Impulse reaction is what I'm saying. Impulse speak, impulse reaction. So, I think that the more we can pay attention to ourselves is going to get you the best outcome. If we could be thoughtful of our situation, whatever we're in. Speaking of something, an event that happened today that was it's very traumatic. It's very,
right.
I'm even, still thinking about it. Yeah, we got a important guy who's had a situation where, life could be threatened. And it sort of puts things in a different perspective for my day. I didn't plan on hearing something like that. So I kind of changed my thought. All of a sudden, I'm feeling a little bit of melancholy going through me. And then also the appreciation of life, period.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a sadness of knowing, that these things happen without me having any say so whatsoever in it. I don't get to throw my coin into the jar, on any of this. So it makes me feel sort of helpless at the same time too. It's like, but I want to be involved. I want to share in the discussion.
Brings a sense of gratitude, I think.
Well, it'll definitely test your faith, and it'll definitely put into perspective where you're at for the day at minimum, and maybe even change your thoughts of your day and have you go a little deeper into, what's your intentions? What are our intentions? Honestly, what are they? Not just for the day, what are they for ourselves? Are we trying to engage and help each other, or are we trying to isolate and be very independent? Or are we trying to do a hybrid? I'm always a proponent of a hybrid system, because you get to work two systems and then work out the bugs. You work both sides of the fence, and you take the best of what you got from both sides instead of jumping from one side. Grass greener on the other side. Just depends on where the orbit of the sun was that day.
Right.
You're talking about a shadow, and you throw something in some shade on something, and it doesn't look the same as when you see it in light.
Right.
So, I think I'll just leave it at that. That's where I'm feeling about it.
Do you guys think that AI is soft and hard? Do you think AI is noble and savage? Do you think AI, when we communicate with AI, it gravitates one or the other? I know that like on Grok, which is x.ai, it's Twitter's version of a ChatGPT competitor. Grok has an unhinged mode, which I would say is like basically 100% savage. Grok has a kids mode, and you can even tell Grok to, you can tell Grok, when you respond to me, respond with nobility. So are these tools, do they lean one way or the other? Are they 50-50? Do we recognize that we get kind of what we ask for? What are you guys' thoughts on that? Have you ever been shocked communicating with Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant? You ever been shocked? That's funny. Siri just got fired off. Sorry, everybody, when I fire your machine off. Have you ever been shocked by the responses that you get from ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or Grok? You've been surprised by the harshness that maybe it comes at you with, or the encouragement? You ever felt like so
Yes.
encouraged?
Yes. The thing that I do have to remember and remind myself of is you're dealing with an unorganic entity, an unorganic product.
Yeah.
So you're
It's just
never,
feeding off
no
everything
matter
for it.
what's inside the data, it has more data than one individual can have. Of course, we understand that now because it can travel all worlds, all parts of our world, in all languages and all words and everything. But the thing is can it have empathy for real? It can talk empathetic. Can it have laughter? It can tell me a joke, but it may be, and even in voice mode, it can say ha 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 ha.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm never gonna feel it laughing.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna, and I think we can understand these things. I'd like to experience another one soon if possible, but a huge laugh off. I'm talking about
You and I have heard our faces.
You start
and
sweating,
giving ourselves tummy aches.
Yeah, can't breathe.
Sweat bullets.
Yeah.
From having our laugh offs.
That's the greatest feeling in the world.
No doubt.
It's such a good feeling.
I mean, you're feeling like
laughter.
like light on your toes. Nothing can stop you. You can, like, at that moment when you're laughing in pure joy of excitement and almost can't breathe, and you have to take a breath to enjoy that. So I'm never going to get that feeling out of AI. I know that, no matter what that it does. So me thinking like that, I have to compartmentalize it that way. To that it's going to be smarter than me only from what I ask of it, or from what I create myself. No one's, unless I guess someone threw a link to you of something they did in it. But us individually working with these tools, you're just not going to feel that those feelings, the senses, touch, feel, smell. These are things that we own in our human bodies and in humanity that computers, it doesn't matter how smart, quantum, it doesn't matter what you talk about. Those things aren't going to exist. We're not going to have true love through a digital platform. Mm-hmm. It's a human element. Computers can't smell. Not yet. I mean, maybe, they have devices that we can create that can smell things, but for what we use intentionally in our individual lives, it doesn't have feeling, touch, taste, smell, understanding of why I cried right now. So knowing that, I know that I'm going to be separate from this great technology we keep talking about. There's no possible way that it can take over. It can't take over those senses. So it'll be smarter than us, but it still is up to us to use the tool. It's like you open up the drawer of your tools, when's the last time you pulled out the hammer? You use the screwdriver a lot for, the little screw or the little this, but that hammer's way in the back, because you don't need to bang on something or hammer something down, but it's still nice to have it. And it's nice to know how to use that tool when you need to. So that's how I'm feeling about, today, what we're going through and the technology, and even in the human element, we're going to have a dichotomy of it's hybrid. It'll always be a little push and pull. And will we ever find the sweet spot? I hope so. Right. And then maybe the sweet spot is heaven. That's our ultimate goal. And why would you, and that makes sense to me too. So if heaven's this wonderful, sweet place, I don't think you're going to experience that out here, because it's there. And so that's something that's something we need to be cognitive of too. So
talking about the difference between the digital and the physical, it's funny how when we have something that we make, like a fictional idea, like a cyborg, whoa, it's half digital, half human, or maybe some mix in between. And it's an interesting idea. But then you look at things that are progressing, like I just saw a post that Brian Romilly made about how they made, or at least they're starting on making this chip thing that you just kind of put on yourself, and it can listen to your internal thoughts. Of course, that doesn't mean it will work just because it's studied, and doesn't mean that it's going to be soon, but it's an idea. The idea that it's possible, that all of a sudden now the thoughts that we have, the way our neurons move, it can be seen and tracked. And brain chips are a very interesting idea. But the thing with that is that it isn't going to get all of our internal thoughts, all of our internal emotions and feelings. Just because it says 10101010 doesn't mean it knows what that feels like. Just because the computer and the AI has taken in the information that says Malachi felt happy doesn't mean it knows what happiness feels like. And so digital and physical are always going to be different. They're always going to be completely inherently different. But it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a hybrid system. There's a reason why hybrid vehicles became really big, because people liked both, but they didn't want to have to fully commit to one. And they're pretty nice in some ways. And so you have these unique questions that you can ask by having this second world that we now have, which hasn't been here for all of time. But now, instead of just being the emotions that we take in from our eyes from the real world, now we're staring at glass screens all the time. And it brings this completely new world that is unexpected in so many ways, but is, in my opinion, going to bring a lot of good. And I think that there's a lot that we can do to make it even better.
Come on, buddy.
What
Let's
comes to mind-
waiting on you. You on deck, baby. Swing, bada, swing.
Here it comes.
There it is.
Anything you say can and will be used against.
I thought you were going to say anything you say, it sticks to you like glue, not to me.
That too, because I'm taking no responsibility. I am fascinated by how human acting AI is. It'll do the same
Yeah,
dumb
it really
stuff
wants to
humans
be
do.
human.
Yeah, like
Who wants to be?
it will
Yeah.
Oh,
forget where it is
never.
in your conversation and then gaslight you with, oh, my bad. Why are we dwelling on the past? Can we just move on? That's something a human would say.
And would you like the
And
pro
where did it
version?
get that from? Right, exactly.
And would you like to pay me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Economic extract is my modus operandi.
That's it.
So I think we're going to get more of that. For me, the answer has become this. AI is a tool, like a hammer, like a screwdriver. It's never going to be anything more for me. It's not going to be human.
God
It can
bless you.
simulate things.
Mhm.
You know,
Bless
it can do some marketing trickery.
It's amazing.
But at the end of the day,
Let's admit it right now.
Yeah.
These
Amazing.
last few years,
It's incredible.
unbelievable. 5 years ago, if you told me these things are happening and
We
would
wouldn't
say
believe it.
it's gonna, oh yeah, and it's gonna move like lightning fast in a year.
Mhm.
It's just gonna, you'll see transformation
Yeah,
like
you'll
you've
see it
never
happen.
seen before. It's beyond online adoption. It's a beyond email. The email time when email and online actually was birthed.
I bet there's things we've talked about on the show near the beginning or even just recently where we're like, dude, that's going to be sick once that can happen. And it's probably going to be pretty soon. And then now it's here. Now those things we talked about are already here. And we haven't even done this for that long. It's quite impressive how quick it's going. And now we're getting in towards the AI agent phase where now AI can start delegating AI where you can actually do these really big tasks. I can say, I want a movie about my life, and I can give it all the videos, all the photos, everything I've ever
It's
taken.
modulated.
And now
for us.
it can be able to do something like that because it can delegate tasks. It's
Mhm.
quite impressive. And frankly, it makes me really excited.
Only thing I have to say about the AI generation in the world as it's moving right now, I feel there's an unfortunate thing for, we talk about haves and have-nots and stuff, and it's going to be interesting to see when things settle down in the next year or two to where what's going to be available for those who can and cannot afford paid subscriptions. And it feels very, it's hurtful to know that, really people, do you think that people don't want to pay for something? I honestly, in my heart, feel like they don't pay for these things because they can't. I think everybody wants to have everything and not even have to worry about subscriptions. Give me all of it. and let me phase it out. If I don't use it, I don't use it, but give it all to me. But to feel like, I'm being held back, especially something as important as artificial intelligence, as artificial generated intelligence, as quantum computing starts to come through, it's, and then we talk also that the thing that's forgotten so much is that we're such a fortunate country, but more, the numbers, more than half the world doesn't even have internet or more. I mean, people are unavailable to have these experiences and these tools. And it's been a long time in my life since I felt a way like boxed in or ostracized or left out, and not because of my fault, but because whether I'm short on cash or, my bill's got to go to other important things, and I can't afford, subscriptions on every single thing that is, especially that's usable and that's actually helpful. This is not, AI is not Minecraft, and it's not, Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not a game. It's not something that's for novelty. This is something that's actually changing our world and is modifying everything that we do at breakneck speed. So I hope that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that people don't get left out. That's all I want to say about that.
Yeah.
I can't stress this point strongly enough. I think there's an opportunity here that is indeed closing to some degree. And it's like education of old, whether it's getting into an Ivy League school and there's not enough spots or whatever the case may be. Right now, you have opportunity to use these tools somewhat free. I believe in time that will go away. I also believe that those of us, whether with means or not, I don't think any of us are truly using these tools
to their maximum
its
capacity.
Potential,
yeah, to the maximum,
for our potential. And we need to challenge ourselves instead of glorifying it for what, based on its ability, amounts to nothing more than politics, in my opinion.
Right. You got to make hay while the sun shines, kind of thing. So I like how you said that. That's a good thought for anyone listening. Yeah, these tools are where they are at now, and if you used them for enough in the last year or so, you're seeing the throttling happening, whether it's forward, backwards, or just if it's segmenting. All the tools are becoming much more user friendly. There are call to action buttons that will let you at the bottom of the prompt space, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to think deeper, you want to make an image. So there's all these things as they're building out and creating. Takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. And after the adoption comes in that we already have done with using it, they got us. They got you hooked. So it's going to be, there'll be a time to where, maybe, I'm sure the free version is always going to stay, but it's going to be so limited, to where, I'm thinking it's going to be, 5 prompts a day or a certain amount of characters, or you're not going to be able to really use it like you can now as a tool to do a document, to do a research paper, to keep going back into it and having it refine and granulate whatever it is you're searching for. It's just going to kick us out pretty soon to where you're going to, we'll have to pay for these things. And I don't want to beat it to death like that. I just my heart feels like as it comes around and moves, people are going to want it more. They're going to need to use it more and more. And that when that happens, that's when these things will happen to where it's either going to be paid versions or advertisement. It has to be that way because these businesses, these big AI they're not here for fun. For fun, and they can't be.
Sam Altman says he's doing it for fun.
We all would, and I can believe that in the back of my mind that was the impetus, or that is the drive, or that we want to help humanity. Good, we'll just throw it in a huge box like that and leave that there. But no, I'm sure the headache he's gone through in the last 10 years in building this thing, the craziness of it, like anyone who knows doing a project or starting something from start to finish, it is daunting. It's overwhelming. So just grace with a bit of salt.
Grace with a bit of salt. I do hope that humanity will have access to these tools one way or another. We'll be back again in 4 minutes after this commercial break. Thank you for being with us. Hello, Internet. This is our last 4-minute break here at the radio. We are going to be moving our show, Beachside Tech Talk, over to the actual beach in Capitola Village. Numa, you want to join us for the last segment? You in the mood?
I'm about to eat a sandwich.
Do it.
You could eat and talk at the same time. You're a dual.
You're a
I'm talking
multitasker.
about catching up with Hurley.
Okay,
Yeah, I would.
no problem. Just wanted to invite you if you'd like to join us.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I'm gonna hang out and chat with her. We're glued to the
I know.
Twitter sphere. Trying
Glenn Beck said 18 minutes ago that his Charlie's daughter, maybe, or son, or wife, something that's in the tent, said he has a pulse still.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign.
These
Yeah.
are good. The last one I saw was at 12 or 109, and he's in critical. But
I do find it interesting, like Kamala Harris, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, Andrew Yang, all of them posted a similar thing, which is, political violence is completely uncalled for.
right.
This is wrong. We're praying for his family. And it doesn't matter if that is not felt. It doesn't matter as much if they don't. I'm not questioning if they do
Right,
mean it,
right, right.
but it doesn't matter if they mean it or don't mean it or why they're saying it. I think it's positive that there is still a response like that
Yeah.
in our environment, because obviously he has been a real pain in their ass.
Yeah.
Like Charlie is definitely a challenge against those four people and everything that they're about. So it's good that they still would say that. I'm grateful for that.
Who is Andrew Yang?
He's a really great Democrat politician. I really liked him quite a bit. He ran in 2020 and had a pretty good run until they, decided that Joe was going to be crowned the Democrat
It's still
leader.
quite crazy to me that parties get to decide who gets to run.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the future, but right now it's a bit broken.
Do you think Elon's actually going to make a party?
Oh, who knows? I mean, it's a long time away.
No one
Yeah,
knows.
we're
But he had a pretty strategic reason for it. He basically said, if I can create a third party and we can just get certain seats, then our little tiny party can determine the outcome of things. Because if we have 2% or 5% of the Senate seats or Congress seats federally,
you get
then
swing votes.
we are the ones. We are the swing
You can
vote.
swing the decision.
So it's actually quite a thoughtful, strategic thing. He's probably less prone to do it if him and Trump are buddy.
yeah.
He said all that when
You
things
guys
were.
are gonna see a very exciting world, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Your generation.
You are.
I think we're.
What
at a
does
point-
exciting mean?
Just things
Exactly what he
all
said.
the boomers are gonna die off. So right now, Congress is filled.
Yeah, with a
the
bunch of.
shittiest people,
That's right.
that are going to die off.
Yeah.
and
They are. They know that.
they hold greed, power with their little claws.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Without the
the next
realization
generation
that
might just.
when you get to a point of enlightenment, you realize like none of it matters.
Yeah.
You're gonna fucking die.
Right.
I mean? It
Right.
doesn't matter what you.
And
grow
it
up
goes
in.
quick.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah,
quick.
and it goes quick.
Super quick.
So
And the problem is that generation are at the point where they've forgotten that they're going to die.
Right.
And so they're still in that. Right?
Yep.
And they never had the chance to realize that none of this matters, that what matters is
right to step
goodness.
out of the box, dude. Put some slippers on. Relax.
So that's
for a
going to
minute.
change. Like once that gets flushed out, the world changes a little bit.
Yeah, we have a reset.
All right, here we go, party people. Welcome back to Beachside Tech Talk. My name is Ian Utilli, and it is good to be on the radio. Hello,
Well, my
radio
name
friends.
is Ian Utilli Jr. with the name changed.
That's right. You are my junior, and Dan
Did
is
you
my
guys know
senior.
that food is awesome?
Oh gosh,
Isn't it
food.
glorious to eat deliciousness?
You know what's amazing? Technology has not made a radical impact on food.
It has on agriculture.
The truth is, if you're a meat-eating human, juicy steak with some salt and pepper and butter
Still
is
tastes
still
like
just
juicy
about
steak.
as good as it gets.
Yeah.
If you are a vegetarian, a wonderful veggie prepared your favorite way, whether it's a cold piece of, avocado
Seaweed.
with some salt, or it's
Man, avocado is so good.
some boiled, mushrooms, whatever it is. The
Salad
reality
tastes
is,
delicious.
it is kind of surprising that technology and the advancements of automation have actually not enhanced and benefited food, but rather it's caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
It's quite fascinating. It's because a lot of the enhanced tech approach around food has to do with getting people addicted to something and making money. I have seen some pretty cool things in agriculture. We're here in the agriculture epicenter, and I have seen some fascinating, amazing machines that are definitely helping with that side of things. You know, growing better food, being
the
here,
picking of it. Yeah, they got the big tractors.
The organic revolution has a big part of its founding here. It's amazing how many things have started here. We talked about CrossFit, Odwalla. So the whole entire juice revolution was kind of birthed out of Odwalla. At least that's one impression. Obviously, the transformation of fitness, CrossFit had a lot to do with that. That was birthed here. You have so many agricultural things that have happened here. Driscoll's, Taylor Farms all have, starts here. MAPS, which is the organization that has progressed things around psychedelics, that started here. Like there's a lot of things, wetsuits, Jack O'Neill started wetsuits here with O'Neill. Skateboards, cool. NHS arguably had the biggest impact on skateboards and skateboard culture here in Santa Cruz. People are obviously feel very positively about a lot of things that have come out of Santa Cruz. And it is amazing to live here and to be in an environment that's not so intense and fast paced as a San Francisco or a Silicon Valley, that we have that kind of chill beach vibe. Yet we have a innovative environment where people have the freedom to innovate and to do things that are different than what's been done. And so I do think that when we go back to the food conversation, we just had Numa in here who has an awesome weekly show on food, and he has an incredible Hawaiian restaurant right down the road.
Yep.
And I do think that oftentimes when it comes to food, we probably want to get technology out of the way and just get to the basics that our ancestors enjoyed. Healthy, nutritious, organic food that's not grown by massive corporations, but is grown locally. Farmers markets. If you look at the farmers markets list here in Santa Cruz and Monterey, there's got to be over a dozen farmers markets in each of our counties that
impressive.
serve. It is. We're
it's
very,
everywhere in the
very
nation.
fortunate.
We've done some
Very
research, all across the nation. If it's sunny outside, people that are doing organics are at your local college. They're at a local, wherever that space is enough to do a farmer's market. I still don't understand how it costs so much more, 3 and 4 times more than a standard food product, something that's labeled organic, when technically you just leave it alone.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, seriously, that's what the organic thing. And I see, if you find organic fruit is a good example. A nectarine, an apple, whatever it is that's organic. If you look at that piece of fruit for something that's not labeled organic, you're going to see about in my opinion, at least a 30% size difference.
Right.
So I understand. So you get a little bit less as far as volume or poundage or whatever that case may be. But why is it 3 to 4 times more expensive for an organic product
compared to one that's pumped with a bunch of...
with the genetically modified organism, when they have all of the chemicals, all of these people, they have to put the fertilizer into the ground like that, and then do this upkeep of all of this workforce. Yeah. When, again, technically in organic, you leave it, and then you keep watch of it. You steward the organic soil, whatever.
Riza was telling me,
supply and demand. Ultimately, right? I mean, that's all my thought is. It's like, if you can, it seems like organic food is like an elitist thing. It's, again, haves and have-nots.
Right.
If you don't have the money to pay for it, you're not going to be able to eat well. Yep. Back to McDonald's for you guys.
Right.
Something like that.
Riza was telling me earlier today that at one point she grew all of her vegetables when she was living in Cavite, which is part of Manila in the Philippines. So, honey, when you were growing your own vegetables and when you were, really thoughtful about every single thing that you're putting in your body and doing all the bodybuilding stuff that you were doing back then, what was your experience and what was your impression? Because yesterday, I think you were telling us, or the day before, that when you came to America, you were under the impression that we had unhealthy food. Then you come here and to Santa Cruz, And obviously, you were surprised at the amount of healthy, organic, locally grown and sourced things that we have here that we have access to at the farmers market or the New Leafs or the Whole Foods or the Staff of Lives, etc.
I'm sorry. You say those names and the stores like it. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. They all pump the price. But what was
It's
your
expensive to shop there?
It
I mean,
is.
you're in our county here.
Yeah, compared to a grocery outlet or a Safeway.
Or Safeway,
Sure.
or you used to have the Luckies and Nob Hill even is
Right.
expensive, but they don't compare with,
Some of that's impression, though. To be honest with you, I find that healthy food at New Leaf and Whole Foods, if you go and shop what they're pushing out, which is called their loss leaders, it's actually quite comparable. At least that's my impression. So, honey,
That makes sense.
what was your experience growing your own food? And what was your experience coming here and having access to so many different options of healthy food?
Before you start, Risa, how many people did you have to grow for? Because that is very important. If you did it for yourself, small garden, no problem.
Her and three children.
So you had a family that you had to grow for also.
When I bought a house, I had a very big yard, front, side, and back. So I want to make it useful. So, and during that time, that was the time that I was in my serious intermittent fasting. And I found out that in the Philippines, although the vegetables, the fruits are very cheap, but I also found out that most of them are coming from China. And most of them also from the Philippines with pesticides. So I tried to live a very healthy lifestyle during that time. So I started hydroponics where I planted my own lettuce, tomatoes, and my favorite okra. So I planted it on the ground, and papaya and different kinds. I also planted my own onions and garlic so that I even had my very small poultry where I had 50 chicks, and then only 20 survived.
You had 50 chickens and you had 30 that survived?
Yeah.
Or 20 that survived?
20, only 20 survived. So I really don't want to buy as much as possible from the supermarket. So I want to make my own food. Like, if only I can plant my own rice. So maybe I already have planted it in my garden. So yeah, my experience is number one, is really fun to do that, although it consumes a lot of time.
Right.
And time. And also, I really want to get myself not to be online that much, because I protect myself from getting the blue light and everything. So as much as possible, since my work is online and I'm always have 8 hours work every day or more, and I don't sleep at night. So I want to have a healthy, life. So that's why I was so crazy about doing that, and kind of a little bit paranoid as well, I don't want to use because in the Philippines, most Filipinos love to use MSG. So
my goodness,
yes.
Sorry if I'm interrupting. That was one.
Yeah, so MSG,
That is the most craziest. Yeah. It's chemical. It's basically it's a salt additive, right? But with many, they'll throw a barbecue flavor in there, yes. and flavors are inside of it, and anything that you eat and read on that. When I would see that, I realized that's why I liked that so much. It wasn't because it was the cracker or it was the fruit thing. Yeah. It's because the MSG was inside of that. And then, I did some research on that days ago. Didn't they finally start outlawing some of that, or at least
it's
the amount
in restaurants, from what I understand? MSG, I believe, is outlawed in restaurants, and I believe it has to be labeled on food.
Right, you got to know.
Clearly.
Yeah. You have to be told that you're eating it.
What does MSG stand for?
Monosodium glutamate.
Yeah.
So it's a single salt with the glutamate is the bonding agent that everything else can adhere to as you sprinkle on.
Yeah, it has the umami taste that you will be.
You just love it.
Yes.
You can put MSG on anything.
Anything.
Ice cream.
In the Philippines, there are some peanut vendors, and I was so surprised that they put MSG on peanuts.
Everything.
Everything. So even French fries. So yeah, that's why when I came here, I was like, I told you, like, as much as possible, let's not eat outside, because I was, yes, I thought like that.
That was the one thing that
well.
had me in my life years ago started. Actually, that was the beginning of me starting to read labels. Was when I realized that MSG on it. I used to take these crackers called chicken in a biscuit. I don't know if you ever have had it. It was a blue box and it had this, they were rectangle crackers and they had this incredible, like, yummy. Just this, I just like go through a box of them at lunchtime.
Right.
Finally, someone told me, you know why those taste so good? And I had heard about the MSG before, and I'm all, and I'm looking at the box, and it's like fourth ingredient down, after it's flour and wheat, the things that are actually making up the object. As soon as you get that down, it's the first thing is an MSG in there. I'm like, oh, and I stopped eating it right away.
I mean, MSG is an example of technology making a negative impact upon our food, right? Processing food, prepackaging food, putting chemicals in food to make it last longer. These are all nutritionally negative impacts of technology and automation.
Those PFOAs and the Teflons. Do you remember when DuPont and 3M had gotten in big trouble because for years they had their 3M and DuPont facilities were leaching because DuPont was the biggest maker of plastics. Plastic came around after the Second World War, and it was just this miracle invention because it didn't rot. It wasn't foodborne, so you could store food in it. You could do anything with it, and it was very strong, and it would lasted. And we started making plastic out of everything. But little did we know that I forget the makeup of it. It's like a PFOA, and they put a number on it and stuff. They were leaching these things for years into debris, our garbage dumps, but they were dumps for chemicals. And finally, the chemicals started leaching into it was found out because a farmer was having his animals just die off, and they started and they found this white sludge by his property, and that was the beginning. This was in the 60s. That was the beginning of the sludge, was the offshoot of making plastics. And they're called PFOAs, I think they are, and they don't break down. So they say that today we all have a certain amount that are in us. It's gone through the world. It's inside of us, and some of the numbers are kind of alarming. Like you know that parts per billion, things like that, when they say the ocean's not good enough to swim into it because there's something inside of the water today that's XYZ parts per billion. And those parts per billion have jumped up. They keep moving the dial through the years. And they're saying that we, on average, even if no matter what you've eaten or ingested and not ingested, it's about 3 to 6%. And it's inside of our bloodstreams. And that comes from things where it was fluoride in the toothpaste. It was aluminum inside of the deodorant sticks and all these things that we've used for generations.
Yeah.
Not to throw a scare tactic on it, but it's to let you know that things can get out of hand when you're doing with growth hormones or modifying foods, and things can go off the rails really quickly. So where's our transparency for all of our FDA and food agencies?
I mean, that's definitely something that we need.
We put the stuff in our body
to help solve.
It's important that we know everything going on.
It's been interesting to see RFK Jr. take a hold of the health department and the way
he's a fit dude.
Dude, he's 70 and he can.
The guy's doing pull-ups more. I mean, he's cranking them out.
Didn't he do? He did
a lot. I don't know the number. He did more than I can do. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think 47. I think because he's running for 47th president. I believe he did 47 pull-ups. But
just to prove the point.
He and Hagseth, they got together and they started their whole thing. Like, can you do 100 pull-ups and 100 sit-ups? Or
with who? Hagseth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups. And in 10 minutes, that's like their new thing they want people to do. So anyway, but beyond how fit he is, which obviously is incredibly impressive, the thing that's interesting to me is the way he's going into the Senate, going into the Congress, and really agitating.
He's kicking tires everywhere.
Of politicians.
He's kicking tires
that are primarily funded, by these big pharma companies. And it's, there's folks like Bernie Sanders, who I personally feel very positively about. There's a lot of things I really have always liked about Bernie. And then, let's just take him alone. So Bernie's, pushing against RFK Jr. and RFK's like, your number one funder is Big Pharma. Like, why don't you sit down and be quiet?
Hippo.
Dude? So I just think that it's interesting to have someone like that now pushing against this big
Status
machine
quo
that has, by and large, seemed to have made Americans fall into a trap of sickness. Nigel, talk to me about your perspective of nutrition, health, Tech's impact on it. What do you think about Santa Cruz as you visited here? What's it like in Tampa?
I think we have a lot of opportunity. And when you said before, technology hasn't done a good job, I felt like that was a jab at humans.
Funny to hear on a
Technically,
tech
we
talk
haven't
show.
done enough. Yeah. Like, we're not doing. I mean, we're not
Tech's doing a fine
great.
job. We're not using it correctly.
100%.
Oh,
I think
one,
if you
Nigel.
have people who are passionate about any subject, use AI, it's going to amplify the opportunity. What other ingredients could I use? Like, for instance, I just looked up the whole MSG thing.
Thank you.
And I was like, well, who made
Whose
money
idea?
off of this?
Who made money? Everyone who supported the MSG.
Well, no, the reason according to ChatGPT, the reason there wasn't more pushback on the no MSG was because there was more money in branded patentable alternatives. There was no way to patent MSG. Because it doesn't make sense, some of these things. You ask, you could just leave organic alone. You know how hard it is to leave anything alone, including humans. You can't just be left alone. There's always got to be somebody shoving something in your face. Here, take this, look at that, buy this. It's too much. So being left alone comes with a tax. I remember when water at venues became more expensive than soda. It's crazy. And then I remember going into a graduation, which just bothered me a lot. You couldn't even bring water into the venue. They made you throw away water. And I was complaining about it the whole ceremony. I was like, you're throwing away water. It makes no sense. It's crazy.
Well,
Profit, man.
Amidst all these weirdness things about humanity, where we have turned the food environment into this weird mindset, I think there's a lot of good that's still happening. We've talked about some of the agriculture things that are here in Santa Cruz, but recently I've seen plenty of videos and content that are about things happening in places like Denmark and Netherlands. They're making these massive greenhouses that are using AI, frankly, to affect every little factor that changes the plants. And now it's gone to a point where the plants are really, really, really good. So I'm impressed.
We're about at time. I just found out 2 minutes ago, Donald Trump confirmed Charlie Kirk has passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And
God bless you, Charlie.
So Charlie has a wife and children. We had talked about that early on in our show. So why don't we take the last moment just to say, God bless our country. Would you have mercy upon the division in our country? And
grace to the family,
grace
of the
to
Kirks.
his wife and children. And Charlie was a young man, 31 years old. He had a lot to offer the world. And I am concerned about technology's impact on a moment like this. Technology gave Charlie a platform. Technology is going to allow people to say some destructive things. May somehow, some way, this not lead to some form of a bloody revolution. What we need, everybody, is a reformation, if at all possible. Those are my final thoughts for today. It's an honor to be here on the radio at KOMY, 1340 AM, the home of Schoolhouse Radio. Thank you so much for your attention and for joining us today.
God bless.
All right, Nigel, loving you right now. I'll give you a call, and I think the plan is to stick with our consistent time of 12 to 2 tomorrow and likely Friday. It won't be much of a change for you. Malachi, I assume, will be with us in Capitola Village. Dan may come or may join from the treehouse. So we'll kind of keep it consistent the next couple of days. And then we'll just let you all out there in World Wide Web land know what's happening if we decide to change the time or change any of our rhythms. For all of you that have tuned in the last 3 or 4 months, I recognize that it has been difficult for me to be empathetic to all of you, and that I haven't given you, the internet, the very best of what we have to offer. I acknowledge that I have prioritized the radio over you because I felt like it was my responsibility to first serve this audience since we were invited into this home. Now that we are transitioning into a internet-based regular programming, I will be able to give you more attention. I will be able to set things in motion to where you're not waiting in silence or having to watch a video that I played 2 weeks ago again. So it will likely be a better experience for all of you that are online in the internet land. Nigel, any final thoughts before I close us down?
Let's all try to do better.
Let's all try to do better. I'm with you, my friend.
Yep.
I'm with you. Love you, Nigel.
Love you more.
All you out there in the World Wide Web, our internet friends, we're loving you right now. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time. God bless.